Sadiq Khan is a nationally known figure. Well, he's refused to apologise to Met Firearms Officer, the Met Firearms Officer who was acquitted of Chris Kaba's murder. Mr. Khan was put under pressure at the London Assembly yesterday for being too sympathetic towards 24-year-old Kaba, whose violent past was revealed after the police officer concerned was found not guilty of his murder. Let's have a listen to that exchange between Susan Hall, London Assembly member and Conservative councillor, also chair of the Police and Crime Commissioner, and Sadiq Khan.
These armed officers go into situations that none of us would want to be near. Absolutely not want to be near, and yet there's no sympathy for him whatsoever. You have been quoted, and I've got the quotes, saying young life cut short, whole life in ahead of him. And that, by that time, that was the 30th of March, 2023. By that time, you will have definitely known all of these things. So for you to make those comments, and never about the officer, is one-sided. Would you not agree with that now?
So my sympathies do extend to his family, his friends and the wider community.
And did they extend to the police officer who was waiting some sort of judgment?
Well, I've articulated my gratitude to the jury for the hard work they did.
There it is. Susan Hall joins us now. Susan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Nice to have you with us. I understand you're a bit croaky, so we won't keep you too long.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Hey, no, don't apologise. Listen, if you have to have a tete-a-tete with Sadiq Khan, it'd make anybody croaky. Surprised you're still vertical. Listen, this is interesting to me because it's pretty clear-cut. This, regardless of what Mr. Khan should have said in reference to the officer. The bit of this story that I find beyond belief, frankly, Susan, is that prior to a court case, prior to any detail, a police and crime commissioner, because that is what he is, as well as the Mayor of London, would make any kind of personalised comment about an ongoing live case.
Well, at the very beginning, it wasn't a live case. It was just that there was no balance at all. You're quite right. He's a police and crime commissioner. He kept saying things like, young life cut short, he had his whole life ahead of him. And MOPAC, the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime, brought the whole racial issue into it. There was never a mention for the firearms officer who spent 2 years wondering whether he was going to jail. Sadiq Khan should have been out there saying, if the police stop you and ask you to get out of a car, just do that.
Correct.
If Chris Kaba had actually done what the police asked him to do, he'd be alive now. And that's what everybody would have wanted. You, me, certainly the police officer that did fire the gun, certainly him. And the Commissioner said it yesterday. I was trying to find out yesterday exactly when Sadiq Khan would have been briefed on all Kaba's history. Well, he said he couldn't remember. It's normal for politicians, especially the Police and Crime Commissioner, the Mayor, to be informed of the background around this. So we can assume he definitely knew that. And yet still, it was this massive sympathy, a young life cut short and all that. He should have just done none of that.
Well, but even the words, as you rightly say, there was no charges against the officer at this point, but Mr. Khan would have known that there would be a huge investigation into this, because there always is. And the turn of phrase that he uses is partisan to start with. It sort of racialises something that doesn't need racialising as well. And it nails his kind of, his sort of allegiances.
Absolutely.
In a certain direction. I don't think anybody could extrapolate any other conclusion from the kind of way he spoke about this.
That's right. And it's got to stop, Ian. It really has got to stop. It's getting ridiculous. It really is. We had a situation here that he would have known about. He'd have known the background of Chris Kaba. He should have hardly commented on it at all. To say he felt sorry for the parents, any of us that are parents get that. But at the same time, there was never a mention of feeling sorry for the officer or his family. As for the officer being named, that wasn't Sadiq Khan's fault.
Absolutely, yeah. That was a court decision, and that was something separate. But he could have found room. Indeed, he could have found room in a statement to say something on the lines of, "Look, when anybody dies in whatever circumstances, it is always tragic. I get that.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, you know, the police would have had their own intelligence or reasoning behind what happened. So I don't want to make any further comment until we have the full details that will come." It should have been something like that, one would have thought.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And he should have been sending the message out there. If the police tell you to stop and get out of a car, do that. Don't be driving a 2-ton Audi at police officers.
Yeah.
Just don't do that.
Spot on.
I mean, I would think that was common sense, quite frankly.
I think the mayor accused you of being, I can't remember the full word he used now, but insulting was essentially what he said.
Oh, he calls me, I don't care, quite frankly. It's irrelevant to me. All I wanted was for him to apologise to that police officer, who I will not name ever, that poor police officer and his family, and he refused to do that.
When you have these exchanges with Sadiq Khan, and fair play, because you do, you know, there's a lot of evidence for those who want to have a look at it, at the amount of times you've tried to hold him to account on a variety of issues. When those mayor question time sessions are over, do you ever have a little cup of tea and a chinwag?
With Sadiq Khan,
Yeah.
I've never had a meeting with him. The only time I've ever spoken to him, and once he ignored me, was in the lifts in the old City Hall. No. And it is my job. I'm paid by the taxpayer to hold him to account.
Yeah.
And I really do my best. One thing I must say to you, I was speaking on my own behalf yesterday, not as chair of the Police and Crime Committee, because there are people on that committee, quite rightfully, with completely different views and a broad spectrum of views. I was speaking on my own behalf. I think it was damn disgusting. More of us should be standing up for the police, quite frankly, because they do an incredible job. I know some of them get it wrong. There's 35,000 frontline officers. When you get 35,000 members of the public, which is what the police are, you are going to have the odd one that is a wrong-un. But in general, 99.9% of the time, our police are incredible, and we are very lucky, and we must support them.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I'm bound to ask you, Susan, while you're with us, I note the London Assembly has voted in favour of calling for the mayor to help migrants, asylum seekers, I think it is, cover the costs of public transport. So I think the Conservative contingent of the Assembly didn't vote on this or voted against it, am I right in saying?
I believe so. To be honest, I should have been in bed all day, but this Chris Kaba situation is so important to me.
Yeah.
I got up, went in, was there all morning, and then running a temperature, I came home.
We will let you get back to your lemsip, Susan.
You're too good for me.
Listen, I know we always are, you know that.